So if we go back to these unverified subzones, again, this is the more simplistic black and white sort of mapped out view. We'll get into the high level view on Bosco, Torrenieri. And I say high level here because I really don't have a lot to comment on. I don't have great history in the wines of Bosco and Torrenieri, largely because there are just a couple of producers to note. I think Castiglione del Bosco does a really nice job. They make some really elegant wines. They're bigger in style in some circumstances, depending on the vintage. But to me, they're just a very nice example of what's going on in Bosco. You'll see the name Castiglione del Bosco. Bosco just means forest. It refers to a heavily wooded area in this northwest corner of the DOCG. Here you've got cooler temperatures. This is historically, again, very susceptible to spring frosts and the fall fogs that are not ideal for maturation of Sangiovese. It can do a lot of damage, of course, as you get into the fruit setting in on frosts. You get a lot of rainfall, not a lot, but more rainfall for sure than the rest of Montalcino. And then the soils themselves, still very interesting in some sections with calestro soil, sandstone, and clay. Elevations range. Again, we're not talking about a whole lot of producers in Bosco, but one of note to me is Castiglione del Bosco. I'll show you on the map over in this section again. Bosco's down in this northwest corner. You get into the microclimate of Torrenieri. This is in that northeast. Again, a controversial section for sure, because you've got, as you'll see as we zoom in to Torrenieri, you'll see it's not as compelling as you might find some of the sections of Castelnuovo, the north and south of Montalcino to be. This is an area that was largely this Crete Senese, sort of clay, compact clay soils. It doesn't have the influence of Pliocene era or the different epochs of types of layers of soil that came through that uprising or the compression that really helped develop Montalcino soils. You're not seeing that. This is largely clay soils making some pretty big wines, and I think not as complex or interesting as you might find from other sections of Montalcino. If we again go back to the various subzones of Montalcino, and then we'll look at now the next producer. But again, Innocenti makes some really wonderful wines out of that area. And I think, again, you'll see more producers look at diversifying their holdings if they have them in Torrenieri just because of the change in the weather. But I think that it's certainly one that would be considered one of the sections for sure. Camigliano, here you get Castelgiocondo, Tenuta la Fuga, and for me, Cupano is probably the more interesting, but for sure the smallest of those three that I mentioned. Cupano, I've known those folks for a very long time. Producer that came over from the area of Armagnac, is a really very French approach to winemaking in the area of Montalcino, has made some incredible wines, very small producer, and I think very, very interesting for the category of Brunelli di Montalcino. But it's great to have Lionel and his wife producing those wines out of Camigliano, because I think they're very different than Castelgiocondo, more aligned to La Fuga, but very, very different, of course, in terms of size and approach to winemaking, Cupano being really committed to organics and biodynamics. So here you've got Camigliano at 130 to 450 meters above sea level. It's in that southwest edge of Montalcino. It's again Pliocene epoch soils of clay, marine deposits. It's an area that was, of course, underwater like a lot of Montalcino, but you really see the influence of some more mineral-driven marine, sort of really sometimes challenging clay and marine soil composition over here. Low elevation vineyards, and again, this results in very warm growing seasons. Not going to be as hot as you would find in Sant'Angelo and Scalo, but you still find yourself with often richer, darker, not necessarily high acid Sangiovese, which is what you would hope to find in Brunello di Montalcino, because it lends itself, of course, to great aging. Camigliano's down here. We can take a good bird's eye view of Camigliano. Again, I don't have any producers noted here, simply because I just think that there's limited opportunity to talk about great producers as you would find in the deep dive that we'll go into here just a moment around the various producers in our portfolio.